Hello, welcome to the McBrideAce podcast. First guest, so rare monkey. Good evening. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, I've had a pretty good week. I can't complain.
Hi.
How about yourself?
So I see. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks very much for offering to being the first guest on the channel. So pretty cool, and it's worked out pretty well after the week you've had. So couldn't really have picked a better week than picking up an Mbappe rare win. How you feeling about
I honestly I couldn't believe it because I had looked through all of the results for Cap 270 and for every single one since its launch, and there's never even been a Kimmich. So I thought, well, I could look at that two ways. You could look at it like maybe it's due, or they just don't put it out for like the capped ones. So my expectations, when you play this game long enough, your expectations are low for anything, for me anyway. And then if it's better than that, then great. But
that?
yeah, I was buzzing.
That's mad. Can't believe it. Couldn't have picked a better week to get you on the first podcast then. Crazy.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, this was
I know.
arranged well before that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be your biggest win on Sorare as well then, I'd imagine, Like since you've started, I don't think you'll have won anything as big as that so far, or
In terms of actual value, yeah. I mean, the only way to win something more expensive than that, I guess, would be like like a tier one, tier zero super rare, wouldn't it?
yeah, mad.
But yeah, no, I've won eight competitions now, but yeah, none of them have like been anywhere near as good as that.
Yeah, crazy. What's the plans then? Do you think you're gonna hold it? Are you gonna sell it and reinvest or have
Um, I mean, I would love to hold it, but I just think what 2.6 ETH. I've had 2.65 ETH. I've had an offer of. Um, I think I'll probably take it because for that I can get another Super Rare goalkeeper, a Super Rare forward, and probably another decent Super Rare. That enables me to move up. I've got like 400 rare cards. I think you and me have probably built our galleries in a similar way. It's like,
too
buy
many?
as much as you can of like prospects, hoping they come good, all kinds of stuff like that. But I've tried to move away from limiteds a bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
So probably move him on. Just negotiating with someone at the moment. Hopefully that'll get over the line in the next sort of 24 hours or so.
Yeah, that's a good chunk then, isn't it? I mean, obviously, won him right as he's timing out, literally the game week before. I think there's one game week left, but obviously he doesn't have any games. But yeah, that's him timing out the under 23s as well. So that's always interesting. Although I think that by this point it's always priced in. It's not as if anybody's going to turn around now and say, oh, well, Mbappe's out at 23s. And I think we're kind of on the way back up towards the European season already by the looks of the market and the
Yeah,
prices and
definitely.
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, that's I couldn't believe it. I just remember, I think you posted something on Twitter, so I remember seeing you'd won the competition, but where you're looking at who's won what and all that type of stuff, and I don't think you'd actually opened it at that point. I think you'd opened it a wee bit later than 7 o'clock or whatever. So I was looking out for it.
Yeah, no, I was out. Yeah, didn't get in till 8 o'clock, and then sort of posted that I definitely won because I think Haber didn't he realised that the results aren't final until at literally 7 o'clock when rewards come out.
Aye,
Anything can change until then. So I try not to post too early these days because it's happened before when I've had a podium and actually ended up getting docked points within before 7 o'clock and ended up like fifth or something like that. But
yeah. Yeah, I think it was a quite a late one this week as well because of the Suwon stuff as well. So obviously the Suwon game, they didn't have the results in, and then they've posted the video, and then Sorare's kind of got them see if you can try and get it in quickly, and they did. Fair play, because obviously it's probably more important that the scores are right, but everybody assumes at 3 o'clock that's the lock and the scores can't change. But I've been opted at like 5 o'clock before and stuff as well, and I don't know what's worse. I don't know how you feel about it, but I remember like having one before and it just dragged on, and I just felt myself clicking all day, refresh. Because you think it could come in the next 30 seconds, so you're just kind of constantly refreshing your screen, waiting for it to come up. But at least now it's 7 o'clock type thing, but it's you
yeah,
also
yeah,
know that there's nothing showing you there when it's actually locked. Because I remember a way back, like I think about probably at least a year and a half ago, but you used to be able to see when the tournament was closed as well. I think it used to update. It kind of showed us closed rather than ongoing. So you knew then that they were sending out the rewards or they were working on
Yeah, no, I
other
remember that.
rewards.
Yeah.
So you just don't know now, do you? So you're just like kind of stab in the dark. Is it going to be 4 o'clock? Is it going to be 5:30? But
Yeah,
yeah,
that used to drive me around the bend.
aye, definitely. It's interesting as well because obviously I know you're not going to get a lot of Mbappe's out for the cap 270, but it's kind of good to see as well, right? Because obviously in the past maybe there will be certain tournaments or whatever you're more chance of winning them, but seeing somebody win it in the cap 270 and not having to play against five guys that have got a 75 average or whatever. I know there's not that many of them, but probably the last 15 you could probably pick them out these days. But it's good to see that as well. It's good to see the caps working and people with obviously team stuff. And who did you play in your team? I don't recall who you actually had in your team. Do you remember your five team members?
Yeah, in goal, lads. What's his name? Hoyes, the goalkeeper for the Newells.
Right.
He moved from Velez
Yeah.
last summer. Had McAllister in there, Kevin McAllister, the guy for Argentinos,
Yeah.
and
Other one is Home Alone.
yeah, Reynoso. No, I can't pronounce his name. Emmanuel Reynoso, the guy, the Argentinian guy that was plays for Minnesota.
It was like he was away, wasn't he? It was like all the stuff with the shooting or it was something was happening in his personal life, and he just kind of came back to the MLS a bit late this year, isn't he? So
Yeah, I thought that he would come back, so I bought one for like 0.04, which is ridiculous for a guy like him. Like for people that listen or watch this, that he's like a Zella Rayan. He's nearly up in the sort of Carlos Gil echelons in terms of MLS output. And so to pick him up for 0.04, I thought worth the risk, and it's paid off. But
yeah,
yeah, and then I had another Argentinos guy, Avalos up front, and yeah, and just everyone smashed. But yeah, definitely, my gallery isn't built with household names anyway. So, but
yeah.
yeah, and I
I
was
thought
well
that.
chuffed.
Yeah, I thought that was quite cool to see that as well because obviously I've got a big gallery now as well, but I did start off obviously buying guys that were a bit cheaper and stuff too, and it's good. It's good to see like teams like that actually winning cards like that as well, and it's a interesting part of the year for that because you can put in your five guys from America, three from Asia, and two from America, and you've got a chance of winning like this or last season's Kimmich or Messi or Mbappe, Haaland, all that type of stuff as well. So I suppose that's part of the real sort of advantage is so rare. You won't get that chance or that kind of unique chance on other platforms to ram in five guys from
Well,
America
exactly. Yeah,
and
yeah.
even have a chance of winning somebody like Mbappe. But
I think that's the beauty of so rare, isn't it? That people complain that so too many leagues are covered, but the beauty of it is that so many leagues are covered.
yeah,
If you can, if you're prepared to do the work and search out for, different players, and obviously, so rare data is a massive help for, if you just trying to find scores and stuff like that, that's amazing. But it's there for a football fan. You can hunt players out from all over the world.
yeah, I can honestly say that before I went on Sorare, I hadn't heard of most of the teams, probably even in the MLS. I mean, obviously I knew some of them because Wayne Rooney went over there, but I couldn't have told you the name of K League teams, J League teams, all that type of stuff. And your football knowledge or your knowledge of leagues just completely changes because you do end up becoming aware of these guys. And that's kind of taking us on to our next topic is like what's happening with Saudi Arabia and things just now. So that's a hot topic of discussion just now in terms of whether or not it should be covered, etc., etc. So, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, I know obviously there've been lots of good threads and stuff on it, but overall, how are you feeling about that at the moment?
I personally don't think they should. I know that we've got the Chinese league, and everyone points to the Chinese league being covered, but that's an historical, issue that there weren't many cards on the platform at the time. Some of the, key players from Japan and Korea were moving there, and I think that is the reason why. Maybe they got a package deal or something like that with Opta for Asia coverage. So, put that to one side. So from my point of view, right now, they shouldn't be covering any league unless they can generate income from that league. And the only way to do that is to license clubs. And I'm sure they're speaking to, the Saudi League. I'm sure they're speaking to the Aussie A League. But without that revenue generation for So Rare, I don't see why they should.
Yeah.
Red X's have always been part of the game. You get unlucky sometimes, but
But what about making sure Pavel Trader can sell all his Red X cards?
yeah, he's
Think
really
that on
pushing
the
for it,
pump.
isn't it? I saw him posting again today. But
I
yeah,
know. Is it some sort of conspiracy theory that Saudi Arabia had invested in somebody who'd invested in so rare and it was inevitably covered? I thought that's what a salesman that guy is. I don't know if he's actually at the wind up or whether that's just part of his persona or whether he's just like that, but I thought it was quite humorous to be honest anyway. I think it is a really interesting one. I mean, obviously you're right about like China, etc. I mean, obviously there's pros and there's cons, right? So if you have this attitude of we want to cover as much as possible, and we're covering the Peruvian league. They even take stats from the Colombian league, I think, who have like virtually no players in it. They do cover somebody if they go there. They cover obviously the Asian Champions League, for example, where you've got all the teams from Saudi Arabia and all the teams from around about Asia in it as well. But I agree with you in that if these guys go over there and all of a sudden Benzema can't be minted, but you've got like 3 seasons of Benzema's or 2.5 seasons of Benzema, and all of a sudden he becomes the highest scorer on the platform, then that just suits a group of people who own Benzema. And then obviously there'll be some change in hands, but the maximum you're going to get there is 5% if you're charging a commission on that, if they even charge a 5%, because some of the deals for some reason it's not getting charged. I don't know if it's because of licensing or deals with different clubs and stuff. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, because
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
when I posted Mbappe up, thought about it beforehand. I thought, fucking hell, 5% of him is going to be, horrendous. And I put him up for listing, and it said, you'll get the full amount.
Yeah,
So maybe they have deals with certain clubs like PSG. I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, because I think you're right. Thought it might be to do with currently licensed or not, but there's varying different ones. Like I don't know what's behind it. But I guess when you go to post it, it comes up and it tells you. And like I think the thing with Saudi Arabia that the concern really is, and obviously I've been on other platforms that have been affected by bringing in quite a low level of league or whatever. So I'm not here to talk about that, but if obviously you've got like the top 4 teams and they invest this 20 billion and they do attract quality like Benzema, because I was surprised Benzema left Real Madrid. I thought he still had a year or two in him there. If they attract that kind of level, I think the fear is that they overshadow the rest of the league. Now I know that happens. Obviously, Celtic overshadow Scotland, and you get that in different leagues, right? But it's not just about winning every week as well. It's also about how you win and how you dominate. So if you get like four full teams of star type players who come from Europe and all of a sudden they're just playing against the general guys in Saudi Arabian league, how does that translate into scores? So I mean, my thought on it was, even if you do have an option of obviously getting the license, you can go and get a license and you don't have to say you do a deal and you say, right, we've got a 4 year license. You don't have to bring the coverage straight in September or whatever. You could say, let's look at the actual scoring profile of these guys and see how you bring it in. Because I don't know if you remember this, but I remember Dreamville making the point about when they started sending some of the under 23 cards to All Star, and the division of how if you've got 100 Mbappes, how do you divide them between champion, All Star, under 23, cap to 70, etc. So I think there's some clever things they could do if they bring in that league that would actually change the dominance. So, for example, they can play in Asia and they can play in All Star, but you could then maybe take a few of the Mbappes and the Kimmiches, etc., out of All Star and put them back into Champion, which means that if you want to play and win those guys, you would more have to play in Champion. And if you're playing these dominant teams from Benzema, Edouard Mendy, Brozovic, if you went and everything and you were playing them in All Star, you would have a slightly reduced chance of winning guys like Mbappe, etc. But if you had a license, you could win Benzema, you could win Edouard Mendy.
Mm.
So I think there are some clever things they can do. I don't think they just need to chuck it in and make it the same as it is just now. But I think the fear for everybody is that it could disrupt the scoring profile of the platform. That's the fear, I
I
think.
think that long term, that there's this perception, and I know the sovereign wealth fund over there has only bought 4 teams. The other teams, like I think I had a quick look into it, and I think 3 or 4 of the other teams are owned by billionaires.
Yeah,
You know that they have money to spend, and if you look through them, like, quite a few of the other teams within the league have bought, players from the Dutch league. There's a guy from the MLS that went across there, and they're not playing for these 4 teams. So
yeah,
whilst I expect those 4 teams to, you know, be spending funny money for the time being, I don't necessarily think that the league overall will be quite as unbalanced as people think. I also think that the more players that go across there, the less likely players like Benzema are to bang hundreds every week. Because if you've got a couple of decent defenders in there as well, then he's still going to be playing against quality opposition.
yeah,
So in time, I think it would become more balanced. Um, I just think that it's probably the wrong time to onboard another league because you're then diluting. Even if you keep the auction rate the same, then you're diluting the sales for the big licenses like the EPL and La Liga and Bundesliga.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's a difficult situation at the moment. But the more players that go across, the more people will be complaining, I'd imagine. But
Yeah. I think the thing with the Chinese Super League as well was that they funded that and then they withdrew the funding. So I think the Saudi Arabian situation is more serious going forward, and that I think they'll commit the money to it and they'll keep spending money on it. So
yeah,
like it's kind of like, okay, do we just actually do we need to realise that it's going to be a good league if you leave aside the sports washing or your political views or all that type of stuff on it? If Sorare's view of things is that we want to cover the MLS, we want to cover Asia, we want to cover as many top leagues as possible. At the end of the day, Saudi Arabia will become a top league in Asia, and yeah, I mean, obviously, K League teams always traditionally do quite well in the Asian Champions League, right? Ulsan won it a few years ago, and maybe I think it was a Japanese team won it, etc. But if you find the Saudi Arabian teams are dominating the Asian Champions League, then you've kind of got to give a bit of respect to that as well. Because what I would say is obviously MLS wise, standard of the defending, etc. I don't think it's brilliant, but I think the actual standard of that league is improving a lot, and obviously the recruitment helps. Messi's going there, but signing guys like Almada, and you've got Hani Mukhtar there, who I think would be a really good player in pretty much any league. So I think you've got to give a bit of respect to different competitions and stuff as well. And yeah, if they said they were going to cover it, I don't think that would be a big issue unless they were just actually doing the coverage, but they couldn't sell any cards, and then you're not really getting any of the benefits into the prize pool, or you're not getting any of the commercial benefits of that. That would be the downside, wouldn't it?
I would imagine this is fairly low priority for. I don't imagine Nicholas is sitting there in his office in Paris thinking, "Oh my God, what are we going to do about the Saudi League?" I imagine this is sort of, right at the bottom of a list of things to think about. They've got far bigger fish to fry at the moment with, the cash wallets and stuff like that, fiat
Yeah,
wallets. I imagine, I think they've already said that that is an undertaking, equivalent to what they did when they moved everything onto Matic network. But yeah.
yeah. No, I think so. I mean, I think it's probably more a priority for us. I mean, obviously, Jota from Celtic get linked today and is like, yeah, that's just a load of nonsense. But obviously, as soon as one of these guys actually moves, then that'll be when the proverbial will hit the fan.
I was going to bring that up actually. I did notice that. I noticed a little post, little dig from Hoodwink as well.
He wants him away because he knows how good he is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's only natural though that the rumours are going to come against all clubs, right? So obviously they're signing guys from Ruben Neves, but I mean if they go and guys even like Taremi's saying he doesn't want to go, and Brozovic. So I think the thing is that they're having to overcome. Some people don't want to actually go, right. So they're going to try and exhaust it, and then they'll look for other avenues. Although they did, I think, signed quite a highly rated guy from Palmeiras, quite a top young guy. So you can see Giovanni, I think his name was. So you can see maybe where you would maybe have expected him to go to a Portuguese league, or maybe go to an MLS or whatever, where they're now going directly to Saudi Arabia. So they'll invest in young players as well, and ultimately everybody will be cool until Batterina goes, and then everybody will be going absolutely bonkers because Batterina has just been going for £4,000 a super rare, and
Yeah,
I think that type of stuff will probably change people's opinions a wee bit if you've got the top young so rare type players who have been moved over. So anyway, we don't want to spend the whole time talking about Saudi Arabia. I thought it'd be a good chance just to have a general chat at the end, actually, just about how you kind of feel about so rare, because it's been an interesting time of maybe some downs and then some downs in terms of price. And then I think we've made a bit of progress with other stuff like collections and towards new season. But how do you feel about it generally at the moment? Mbappe aside, because I know you're going to feel magic, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I originally signed up. I can't remember when it was, maybe 2020, and then never started playing it. Then I went on to other. I was doing. I think I just left Football Index at the time. Started doing Footstock,
I
and
remember that
didn't,
actually.
and then didn't come back into So Rare until Footstock had gone under. Um, and I found it. I didn't have much money to spend at the time. I'd lost, a reasonable amount on Footstock, and I didn't really want to sort of take that chance. So the first few months, I was sort of, fair, not negative towards it, but just sort of dipping my toe in the water. It probably took me 6 months to get a goalkeeper, and then around that time they launched limiteds, I think. Might be getting my dates completely wrong, but I think it was around that time. And then probably for the next year, prices just went mental.
Mm.
And then they obviously have had some troubles after that. I think last year, obviously the economic problems, and that sort of affects your enjoyment when every time you're on Twitter you just see negativity from people. It drives me around the bend. But right now I've probably never been in a more positive thought for So Rare. I love it. I love the changes they're putting out. I love the frequency of the changes they're putting out. Collections, I think, was massive. That hooked me in straight away. I'd always planned to get a Liverpool limited set, but that just I had to do it then. Obviously
Yeah,
overpaying for some of them, but such is life. But yeah, so I've started collecting. Hopefully, I can get one to a couple of rare teams to the max 5% in the next few weeks. But yeah, no, I love it. There's so many different facets to it now. Whether it used to be just trading or SO5, now there's collections, trading, real life experiences. It's just so much to sort of take you in. I think once people are often put off by the amount of stuff within So Rare. That can be a little bit off-putting, the amount of leagues. I don't want to follow all these leagues, but now I don't think you have to. You can come in and just, choose your league. If you're just into the Premier League, you can just get away with doing that. But I
yeah.
think eventually you'll get hooked in and want to do everybody, want to do all of the leagues.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair point. Like you'll find some people just say, "Well, I want to build a Liverpool collection," then they'll really enjoy it, and they'll get to the end of the season, all of a sudden they'll be saying, "Oh, maybe I'll just build a wee Nagoya stack, or maybe I'll just find a team to follow over the summer or whatever." And yeah, I mean, I think the game depth is really good. I think that's. I mean, obviously, I was involved in all those platforms, etc. You were involved in as well. I went on to Sorare probably slightly bit around the same time as you, but like kind of obviously put more in at the point where I was kind of leaving FI. I wasn't really leaving FI. I was just a bit annoyed about the whole stuff with IPDs and everything and taking some out, and then I lost some on there. So exactly the same, obviously it kind of tempered my spending. I wasn't wanting to spend 100 quid on a rare and all that sort of stuff, but I was quite happy to put in 10, 20, 30 quid a weekend or whatever and just say, right, well, if this all goes by the wayside, then I can live with that type thing. But now when you look at it with all the different leagues, the licenses, obviously you've got top five leagues, EPL on and everything. It's brilliant. And the collecting things, to give you an example, I'm still trying to pick up some Liverpool cards from the very first season because I've got Trent and he's maxed out, which is a nice thing to have. But I'm picking up a couple of cards from that season to try and get a wee bit higher up in terms of the collection side. Now, there's no way I'd have been looking for a Xherdan Shaqiri from that season, or I bought Curtis Jones. That's worked out pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
you're kind of looking at guys. The other day, Reece Williams went on loan to Aberdeen. I'm thinking, maybe I could get one of his previous cards, and he could do quite well, and I could use him, and also it might help me with the collectability and stuff. So I just think the collection thing brings a lot of value to guys in a good squad that maybe people wouldn't otherwise be interested in. And all of a sudden you just get kind of hooked into it, and oh well, if I get another one, I'll be on 3%, and then before you know it, you spent a few hundred. So like
Yeah,
that's what so rare want, right? So
it's
it's
easily done. So at
uh,
the moment, what would you say you're sort of, you play all leagues, is that right?
yeah,
And you play everything from limited through to unique.
unique, yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, yeah.
what's your priority now then? Like, obviously you've got coverage everywhere. Do you have a list of players that you want that you haven't got yet, or
Yeah.
you don't
Um,
need to name names?
no, I know. Tell everybody, and then well, one of the things I was really doing was trying to get into the unique side of things, whilst the prices were a bit more reasonable. They're still obviously a high price, but first thing that happened was when Celtic were on, they were very high, right? So I mean, Carter Vickers Super Rare was like £7,000, 8,000. The cards were all going for really high amounts. Various reasons, Celtic been pretty good, and also over and above being pretty good, you also had like the scarcity because they were just coming on, so they were they were a huge price. And then as they came down, I had a kind of specific focus of right, well, I've now got a chance to get Celtic guys, but that's led me into building a sort of unique type team as well. And it was kind of one of these things where I thought, if this takes off again, I'm never ever going to get another chance to get into uniques, because these guys are spending 15, £20,000 a card. And even if I win somebody and I win a super rare that's worth 15 or 20,000, I'd still be tempted to sell them and take the 15 or 20,000, right? Because it's so much money. So,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
a trader justifying spending that amount of money is a huge risk. So for the moment, the priority is kind of getting like good super rares, uniques, and I'm still messing about a bit in limited. And I don't want to be disrespectful, because obviously some people spending 30 or 40 quid or whatever is quite important for their gallery. But sometimes if I'm doing my transfer punts or I'm doing things, I just kind of mess about a bit in the limited, and that keeps me occupied, or that's my fun element of things. And if I'm going to go for a serious buy or whatever, I'm trying to improve either my super rare or my unique side to try and make sure I can keep playing in the sort of scarce divisions. So
yeah. You
yeah,
got I think who was it? Was it Matt Riley or whatever? He came out, and I often do the same. I'll go on there, a couple of when they put the new auctions on. I have a little filter for one of, so I can check the new ones they put out. I didn't notice him though. I must have not done it that week. And I think didn't you pick up quite a few like early on for decent money?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the limited and stuff were not too bad, and I think the rare one out of 100, Chef Boker or whatever, run me up a belter on that. But they never auctioned the super rare, but I ended up buying the unique, and that was a big commitment. And that was like a lot of money, but I do think if they auctioned that just now, it would go for at least double at the moment. If not, who knows more. But then obviously they've done really well with like the unique threshold, the super rare threshold, and because they've lifted that, people in their minds can justify paying more money for them, even compared to theirs. One thing I would say is I think that rares are a bit undervalued at the moment. So like the super rares are going for probably an average 6 to 7 times what a rare is. And people sometimes say, "Oh, I'm not paying 300 for the super rare because the rare is only 50 quid." And I'm going, but that's bonkers. Like, the rare shouldn't be 50 quid. So I think that if the platform gets busier, you've got Fiat Wallet, first thing that will happen is people come into limited, you'll get a wee lift there. And then what will then happen is people realise it's quite hard or whatever. Some of the either existing guys or guys who are in there will want to try and move on to the rare side. And then you'll see a more fluid rare situation. And I think there's lots of people trying to get super rares and stuff just now, and just realising how hard it is to build up super rares, because
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
sometimes they're
Yeah,
not.
super rares are so difficult to get at the moment. The unless you're buying, people just don't want to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good to see that because at one point rares were really sort of buzzing and super rares weren't really that liquid, and that was a problem. You would play in a super rare tournament and you would win a sort of current like tier four super rare. If you didn't want it, you couldn't really sell it. So you weren't able to sell it and then move up, or you weren't able to sell it and buy a rare because nobody wanted to buy it. And obviously that affects the value of the price and stuff as well. But I think now they've got the thresholds in and more Ethereum payouts, we've got a better foundation. I think we were talking earlier about Saudi Arabia. The only, I think you made a very good point about the amount of leaks and the amount of cards, because I don't think it's the scarcity at the moment. It's a problem. I think maybe it's just there's so many different clubs, so many different players, so many different options that we're losing a wee bit of the kind of core focus of the platform, which is scarcity, because the uniques and everything are all going for bonkers prices still. The good super rares are going for bonkers prices, and obviously as you go down, then the supply is getting greater. So that's something obviously So Rare have got to manage. And I don't think just going and doing a burner or whatever now is a good idea because people want to collect at some point, so they've got to just be sensible and hope obviously the Fiat Wallet that'll let people get more money in the platform or get their mates involved and stuff and overcome that crypto barrier. So
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that the Fiat Wallet will come in for the start of the European seasons?
I hope
So
so.
basically, yeah, I hope so too. I just, I imagine it's a massive undertaking, and I'm sure they want to get it out. Whether they will get it out is a different matter. But
I think the difference is they've been quite coy with updates recently, but I think now they've actually mentioned it, and that to me tells me that they're pretty close to getting it launched. So,
yeah,
I think if there wasn't a realistic prospect of it being out at least this side of say Christmas, because we're nearly into July and I can't believe it. But if there wasn't a realistic progress of getting it, prospect of getting it out soon, they wouldn't have mentioned it. So I'm hoping that they've kind of got it ready to go, and what they're doing is getting all these updates and stuff out, get the Fiat Wallet out. We come back to the new season, got a full season ahead, no mid-season World Cups or whatever, and people want to refer on, bring their friends involved and stuff like that. And the platform will be in a much better place because all the development stuff that's happened. So
yeah, and I think they've been waiting as well. From conversations I've had with various people, they've been waiting for to get everything right, and then like go full bore with marketing and stuff like that. So I think we could see TV adverts and stuff like that, in August, September time. As soon as they're happy with the product, I think that that's coming. So
yeah, interesting. Well, thanks very much for being the first guest on the podcast. Congratulations again on the win this week. That's absolutely awesome.
cheers,
Um,
mate. Thanks.
Going to wrap it up there. But yeah, hopefully can get you on in future as well. And it's been nice chatting about it. And again, I'm not just saying it. It's nice to see guys like you winning cards like Mbappe and stuff, because I think that's what So Rare's all about. You see, remember the week where Stish I think won, and he won like Donnarumma and ended up winning Mbappe and stuff. Like everybody genuinely is on messaging, being happy about it, and I think we've got quite a good community. So it's good to see, and whatever you do, whether you keep it, sell it, or whatever, good luck with the reinvestment plans.
Yeah, hopefully I spend the money wisely if I do sell it. Cheers. Thank you very
Right.
much.
Good stuff. Thanks very much.
Cheers.